Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're totally cracking the code on why we do what we do. If you've ever really wanted to build a bulletproof routine or finally ditch those stubborn bad habits, you are in the exact right place. We're going to dive into a super practical toolkit pulled straight from chapters 8, 9, and 10 of James Clear's book, Atomic Habits. Specifically, we are zeroing in on the second law of behavior change. So let's figure out exactly how we can build habits that we actually look forward to doing. But first, think about this for a second. Why is scrolling on social media just so effortless? I mean, you can literally do it for hours without even blinking. But sitting down to study for a high school exam or making a batch of work calls, that feels incredibly difficult. It's a universal struggle, right? We all have things we know we absolutely need to do, but we constantly find ourselves magnetically pulled toward the things we just want to do. Well, the answer to that struggle lies in a brilliantly simple concept, the second law of behavior change, which is simply to make it attractive. The rule is the more attractive an opportunity is, the more likely it is to become habit forming. So if we want to increase the odds of a positive behavior actually happening, like tackling that homework or finally hitting the gym, we can't just rely on sheer willpower. We literally have to engineer a way to make it enticing. And to get there, we're going to use this three-step roadmap. First, we'll hack your dopamine. Second, we'll tap into the power of the crowd. And third, we'll reframe your mind. All right, let's kick things off with section 1, hack your dopamine and look at the actual biology of desire. So get this. It's actually the anticipation of a reward, not the fulfillment of it, that gets us to take action. Habits are driven by this really powerful dopamine feedback loop. When your dopamine rises, your motivation to act rises right along with it. But the major spike, that actually happens when you anticipate the reward, not when you get it. Think about it. Planning a vacation can honestly feel just as exciting as actually being on the beach. That feeling of anticipation is exactly what we need to capture. So how do we actually use that biology? Well, look at our needs. Doing your homework, making sales calls, cleaning up around the house. Let's be honest, these obligations rarely spike our dopamine. Now compare that to our wants, checking social media, watching sports, or playing video games. Things like social media act as supernormal stimuli. They're basically heightened versions of reality that naturally jack up our desire to take action. We have to find a way to bridge the gap between these two worlds. And to bridge that gap, we use a tool called temptation bundling. The definition is simple, but it is incredibly powerful. You basically pair an action you want to do with an action you need to do. It's a highly practical way to make a boring, necessary habit a lot more attractive by just hitching it to the wagon of something you already crave. Let's map out the exact formula so you can see how this works in real life. You start with a current habit, follow it with the habit you need, and finish with the habit you want. So let's say you really need to exercise more, but what you actually want to do is scroll through Facebook. Okay, step 1, you pull out your phone. That's the current habit you already do. Step 2, you drop and do 10 burpees. That's the habit you need. Step 3, after the burpees, you get to check Facebook. That's the habit you want. The idea is that eventually you'll actually look forward to doing those burpees because your brain knows it means you finally get to do the thing you've been anticipating. Okay, moving right along to section 2, the power of the crowd and how invisible peer pressure shapes our lives. According to the research, we are naturally wired to adopt habits that are praised and approved of by our culture. It makes sense, right? We have this deeply ingrained human desire to fit in and belong to a tribe. Specifically, we tend to imitate the habits of 3 primary groups: the close, which is our family and friends, the many, representing the broader culture around us, and the powerful, basically those who hold status and prestige in our eyes. Because of this invisible peer pressure, one of the absolutely most effective things you can do to build better habits is to join a culture where your desired behavior is just the normal behavior. If you surround yourself with friends who study hard and get great grades, or if you hang out with people who just consider working out a normal part of their day, you are way more likely to adopt those routines yourself. Your culture literally sets your baseline expectations for what normal looks like. Now, you can take this strategy one step further to make it even more attractive. Step 1, find that group where your desired habit is normal. But step 2, ensure you already have something else in common with them. There's this fantastic example in the text about a company called Nerd Fitness. They help people get in shape, which can feel super intimidating at first, but they cater specifically to video game lovers and movie fanatics. So if you want to get healthy and you also have a massive love for Star Wars, joining Nerd Fitness makes the change incredibly appealing. It suddenly feels like something people like you already do. All right, on to our final step, section 3, reframe your mind by flipping the script. You know, our habits are often just modern-day solutions to ancient desires. So instead of saying, "Ugh, I'm so nervous" right before a big presentation or a massive exam, you consciously reframe it. You say, "I am excited and I'm getting an adrenaline rush to help me concentrate." Actually, it sounds small, but these little shifts aren't just magic tricks. They actively rewire the underlying feelings you associate with a stressful situation. And to take that to the next level, you can build what's called a motivation ritual. This is exactly how professional athletes and top writers condition themselves to automatically snap into game mode. The strategy here is to associate your habits with something you deeply enjoy, and then use that enjoyable thing as a trigger for your motivation right before you tackle a difficult task. Let's look at how you'd actually build one of these routines. Say you want to feel generally happier or just less stressed before tackling a massive homework assignment. First, find something that makes you truly happy, like, I don't know, petting your dog. Then create a super short routine you perform every single time before you do that thing you love. Take 3 deep breaths, smile, pet the dog. Repeat. Eventually, your brain completely associates that breathe and smile routine with being in a good mood. It becomes a physical cue that literally translates to feeling happy, and you can break it out anytime you need to change your emotional state before a tough habit. And that brings us to our final takeaway for this pillar. Reprogram your predictions to transform a hard habit into an attractive one. See, habits are naturally attractive when we connect them with positive feelings, and they're repulsive when we connect them with negative ones. By consciously designing your motivation rituals and just reframing your mindset, you are taking total control of that loop. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground today, but I want to leave you with one big question. Which habit are you going to apply the Make It Attractive rule to today? Whether you're a high schooler trying to lock in a bulletproof study routine, or a working professional just trying to hit the gym more consistently, you now have the toolkit. You can hack your dopamine with temptation bundling, leverage the power of the crowd by finding your tribe, and reframe your mind with motivation rituals. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Now get out there. What is the one habit you are going to make absolutely irresistible today?